Oh, you don't need to make me host.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Um, so we're going to do a land class. I know in one of our Tuesday morning meetings, we had some discussion about people wanted to know how to do some land. I definitely like to coin myself as the landlady. I do a lot of vacant land and I really enjoy it. I enjoy matching my clients with a piece of land and possibly a contractor to build their forever home. So honestly, there is a lot of knowledge that does go into that. And it's just over time, you kind of learn some stuff. So if you have questions, definitely we're going to, be very open about questions. Feel free to ask me anything because I can go down a rabbit hole very easily. So there is a agents here in the office and y'all on Zoom. So if I'm not completely looking at the computer, that's why, because I'm looking at people here in the room too, which is very new for me sometimes. I'm always looking at the computer screen. Starting off, I think the first thing you need to do when you get a client or a set of clients that they want to build. Our inventory is crazy right now, super low. Where everyone's trying to go over asking price and they have a budget they need to stay in. So we look at possibly doing building and knowing our building expenses and materials are higher. Again, so it's knowing the budget. I think that's key. Number one is knowing your client's budget for total. So total, how much are they going to spend at the end of the day? So that's number one. I think knowing how much they completely have to spend. And then it's okay, well, what type of floor plans are you really looking at? What is your wants? What are your needs in your houses in the house that you want? And that's really going to kind of dictate how much then it's going to cost to build the house. And it doesn't, obviously, it doesn't have to be set in stone of what the house plan is, but if you can get a rough estimate of, hey, they want 2,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, it's going to be brick exterior and 2-car garage. And that way you can have a general estimate and maybe talk to a couple of general contractors if you don't have anyone that you work with specifically, to just get an average of what is a new construction price per square foot selling for. And we can look that up in the MLS as well. What I typically will do is then take and back that all out to figure out how much do they have to spend on land. Because if they have, let's just say they have a $600,000 budget, they're going to build almost a 450 house. That means they have $150,000 left to play with. And that is land. That is buying the land. That is prepping the land. That's putting in their well and their septic. Because let's face it, 90% of people that are buying land, they're buying larger pieces of land that's not connected to city water and city sewer. So we're going to have to put in a well, and we're going to have to be able to put a well and septic in. How much is it going to cost to grade it? And looking at land. Do they want a basement? Do they want a crawl space? All of that is going to be factors. And anyone that knows our area is not conducive to basements. But a lot of people are moving from up north down here and they want a basement. Basic basements, I know a year ago was $50,000 to $60,000 bare bones. That is unfinished. So it's really kind of, I say, number one, knowing the budget and backing it out. Down to how much are they going to spend to actually start putting the foundation down. If you do not have a good general contractor that you already work with, go ahead and start making those relationship connections, just like we do with our lenders and our insurance professionals. Go ahead and start making some contacts to some good general contractors. Because our inventory is so low right now, this is the avenue people are looking towards. So if you have someone that's wanting to purchase land and possibly build, you already have a connection with a general contractor. Obviously, that might not be who they choose. They might go with someone else, but having that connection. I will say, I know Niblock Homes will do build on your own land. I think there's a couple other track builders that will do that as well, but I know Niblock does. And I think honestly, Niblock builds a really good quality product as well. So that would be an option to send them to. The next thing I think you need to do is when you go out, I always like to say, I will put on my boots and I will walk the land. I know there's a lot of agents out there, I have seen it, that I call them, they just point, they're on the side of the road and they point, okay, this is what you're buying. No, you have a due diligence to your clients to put your boots on and physically walk the land. The wife might not want to. She might want to stay in the car or at the side of the road, and that's perfectly fine. But you need to take your clients across all of the land. You need to see how it rolls, how it lays. Is it conducive to a basement? Could they put a basement in? Or is it crawl space? How much dirt are they going to have to move around? Where on the piece of property do they want to put their house? That's the other thing. You might have very thick at the front of the property, very thick brush, but then you get back to the back side of the property and it opens up really nice. Okay, well, that's great. That's where they want to set their house. Okay, now we need to think about grading cost. We're going to have to grade to get the driveway in there. We're going to have to grade for that that area. The biggest thing with selling land, I think, is being able to paint the picture for your clients. You have to be able to paint the picture and tell the story. A lot of our clients are not visual people. They can't see it. It's not sitting there, so they don't understand. So I really think if you can understand a nice 2-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with whatever style house that they like, whether it's ranch or 2-story, as long as you can paint the picture for them, you can sell that piece of land, because that's what it is. It's vacant land. You're just trying to sell trees at that point. But if you know what your clients like, what they want, you need to be able to paint that picture. So figuring out where they want to put the house is another key aspect, because at that point, we need to know, okay, grading cost. How long is your driveway going to be? Because as we see, most people only want to be 50 or 60 feet off of the road frontage, which is what our setbacks typically are in the county or in the city, because that's most cost effective. So that's why you see a lot of tract homes are just 50, 60 feet off of the street line, because it's more cost effective. But our clients are buying land typically because they want privacy, or they want to not be able to see their neighbors. So that means, okay, now you're going to have a 25-foot, 60-foot driveway. How many trees are going to need to come down? How does that land roll or lay? What's the topography from the street back to where they want to put their house in? Which comes to be another professional that you need to make a contact with. You need to possibly know who some graders are. We as agents, when we sell houses, we have that professional service disclosures, like, okay, did we get inspections for this? Did we have a home inspection? Do we have a termite inspection? Do we have a well and septic inspection? When we sell land, these are different things that not necessarily that has to be done. It's not mandatory, but they need to understand what their cost is. So that's another professional. Knowing 1 or 2 graders to give them quotes or possibly talk to about a purchase of the property is, how much is it going to cost to move all this land around, to put in the driveway, to cut down where the foundation needs to be as well. It doesn't matter if it's a slab or a crawl space or a basement, the grader's going to have to come in and move the dirt around. So it's not something that you're going to need to know how much it is. It's not on you, it's on that professional, but having, again, that contact. Because if you have the contact for the grader, you have a contact for a general contractor, you have contact for a well and septic company. These are all, they have no idea. You need to start thinking about, okay, who can I recommend for them, because they are going to need to know. That's going to come down to putting the well and septic. Where does the well and septic need to go? That's very important. We all know when we list a property, we need, if it's on a well and septic, we have to have that well and septic permit to know how many bedrooms it perked for. So the same thing. That's the one thing when we sell land that we need to make sure, does it perk that they can even build a house? And that's like our one thing. It's like, oh, well, we don't have any of these other inspections. We just have to make sure it perks. Well, one, we have to make sure it perks for how many bedrooms that they want. But at the same time, where are they setting their house in relations to where that perk or where that system is going to be? Because when the county comes out to do the perk test, you can't really move that system too far. You can move it maybe 50 feet one way or the other, but you can't move it too far. If they say they want their house on the right side of the property and the septic is going to be on the left side of the property, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, we switched our plans, our house plans, and we need to switch one way or the other. Guess what? They have to have a new perk test done, because I don't know, or no one knows, if the land will actually perk on the other side of the property. The other thing we need to think about, and we should all know, you cannot build anything or drive over top where your septic tank is located. So have your clients understand, once they place this septic tank, then there is no building a shop. There is no building any detached structures. There's no constant driving over it. The kids can ride their bikes. You can maybe occasionally put a four-wheeler over top of it, but that's about it. We're not parking our cars there. We're not constantly running over it. It's out there for a reason as well. Let's see. So we've talked about making sure we understand the grading, making sure we understand well and septic. Also, your well can't go near your septic tank. No one wants to drink poopy water. So it has to be minimum 100 feet away from one another. What I typically do for my clients is, wherever they want their septic, then we put the well on the opposite side of the house. It's just really making sure we know the professionals. The biggest thing that we are liable for when we sell land is making sure it perks for what our clients want. If our clients want a 4-bedroom house, make sure it perks for a 4-bedroom house, and make sure it perks in the location that they want to put their house. No one wants to go out and have a property that perks in one spot and that's where it perked, but then their house, they were like, well, that's where I wanted to put my house. Well, now they have to change it up. And now they might even not like the land at that point because it's in a totally different spot. It changes everything. So when you're out there with your clients looking, understanding what might happen, where do you foresee the driveway? Where do you foresee the house? Okay, well, the house is sitting here. We possibly need to think about putting the septic over here, putting the well over here, talking to a grader, talking to the well and septic companies. Do you want a pool? Think about all these things. These might not be things your clients are going to put in right away, which is perfectly fine. But what is their total vision for the property as well? And because then we're going to have to think about taking trees down. So how many big trees are in the way of getting to where they want to locate their property? Those are the things that I really think about when I'm with my clients. So number one, I would say it's budget. Number two, it's going to be how much do they have total to spend? Because a well and septic is the other thing, is it can cost anywhere from about $10,000 for a well and septic up to $30,000, depending if it's an engineered system or not. Now, a lot of people get scared about engineered systems. I technically don't get that worried about engineered system. The only thing that is extremely worries me is how much money it costs to put them in. They're great systems. They're going to work well. They're there for a reason. They're engineered. They just can be costly. And so I know that there's one property towards Mount Pleasant that's a great piece of property, but it literally is going to take a $30,000 engineered system. And that's why it hasn't set, because based on the type of houses that's around it, they're not large houses. So putting a $30,000 system in a $200,000 house on a, $60,000 piece of land is just not ideal. So knowing how much all of that's going to go in together, I think is really helpful as well. Let's see, I'm looking at the chat box, and this is great. If you have any questions, put them in the chat box, or you can talk to me. I love that. Jessica said, what does due diligence look like on land transactions, or do land contracts utilize earnest money more? So from my experience, what I typically like to do is I try not to do any due diligence money on a land contract. And this is my reason why. My buyer, especially if I have the buyer, my buyer is going to have to pay for a perk test. That could be anywhere from $200 to $600, depending on what county you're in. So Cabarrus, it's $250. I know I've done Iredell County and it's been $600 for a perk test. So to me, that is money they're not getting back. They're going to pay for that perk test and they're not going to get that money back. They're going to get a report and hopefully they like what it says. But if they don't, they can walk away. So, and me, in my eyes, them paying for that perk test is their due diligence. Because at the end of the day, if they walk away from it, now the seller knows what the property perks for and what it doesn't perk for. And so they got pretty much a free perk report out of my buyers. So I typically do not do any due diligence money, and I will explain that to a listing agent of this is why we haven't. If they ask, well, why didn't you put any due diligence money down? I tell them, look, my buyers are about to do a perk test for X number of dollars. And so that's why. Now I will do earnest money deposits, and that might be dependent on price point of land, might be $1,000, might be $2,000 or $3,000, just whatever that price point of land looks like. So there is some money, what earnest money is called good faith money. Good faith, they're putting some money in, but at the same time, I don't put any due diligence money down. Any other questions? I think it's better when it's like question based on what questions do you have?
I've got a quick question.
Okay.
When you're dealing with somebody like a Clayton Homes, this is more of a process about the land. Yeah. Do you do the buyer's contract with Clayton? I mean, is that who you do the buyer's contract with instead of doing the actual people that are going to wind up the home? Because Clayton has to take control of the property before they put their product on the land.
So it depends. I haven't done a deal with Clayton recently, but I have done a deal with Freedom Homes, which is very similar to Clayton. And so what Freedom did, and it might be the same as what Clayton does, is they work with the buyer and they do a package deal. So right. In my incident, my contract to buy the land was with Freedom Homes.
Okay.
It was Freedom Homes and my buyers was both the buyers on the contract. Because what Freedom was doing, Freedom was actually buying the land, going to put the house or putting their product on there, and then the buyers were actually going to then turn around and do one for the mortgage from Freedom for land and product. So in
my case, Clayton is doing the financing and all. So.
Yeah. I would ask them how they want it done, and everyone's going to be different in that scenario on how they do it. So
and when you do that, do you have to do working with real estate and all with Clayton too? That you're really brokering to them?
I would try to get them to sign it as long as you have it with your actual clients that are going to buy it. That's number one. But if Clayton
Yeah.
will sign any of that just to CYA yourself in case the commission comes back because they may be named on that offer to purchase.
Right.
I would try to get them to sign something along those lines.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. I'll show you put in the chat box. Do we use the same form to buy a lot of land? No, there is a vacant land offer to purchase and contract in our dot loop. I don't know the number of it. Like I know like our offer to purchase is a 2T offer to purchase. I think it might be 211 is what it might be, but I'm not 100%, but it is an offer to purchase for vacant land. It's very different. April said, what's your experience with construction to perm loans? What do the pools look like and how often? So I have had clients do the construction to perm loans, and that's just also having a good relationship with the lender that your clients are working with. The pools, I mean, that lender, that's going to be strict between the general contractor and the lender, or the lender and the client. The client might write the check to the general contractor. But typically it's going to be set up in the contract with the general contractor and the client when they're building is what does that schedule of monies look like? So they might do a $30,000 pull up front and then another $30,000 pull and then a $50,000 pull, just depending on the stages that they're at. There's typically going to be one at a start and foundation, another one around framing, another one where it comes into getting towards the interiors and the inside with cabinets, and that's going to be a larger one. Your cabinets and your countertops and your floorings going in, that's going to be a larger pull, and then a final one at the very end. And basically that's going to be in a full agreement when the contractor gives the client a schedule of when the pools are going to look like. That's going to be between them. Do you have a good lender for construction to perms that you can share? I definitely always highly recommend State Employees Credit Union if your clients can get in. I do like Carolina Farm Credit, and then First Citizens as well, and URE Bank. Those are my good go-tos for land with construction to perms.
Hey, Amanda, I have a question.
Sure.
Sometimes a client wants to sell a property. Sometimes the house is less value than the land.
Yes.
And so how do we go about it? I mean, which of the two do we put in the MLS?
So if the property really has no value, maybe it's not livable, it's uninhabitable, I really then will not give either any value for the house, or maybe give, if it could be used as like storage or something, maybe give like $5,000 or $10,000 of value towards the actual house. But most of the times in that scenario, I do not give any value to the house. So when I comp it out, I will comp it out using vacant land comps only, just the same way we do. I will give value to a well and septic that's already sitting on the property. So I might give about $15,000 value to a well and septic that's sitting on a property. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? These have been really good questions.
If we haven't sold a piece of land yet, and who are the person who's gonna assist us within Lantern? Is there a list of people who will do that?
I'm sure I don't know if there's a list, but if you have a mentor, you can reach out. I mean, you can definitely reach out to me, especially if it's your first land deal. I always say, get a mentor, and I will tell any student when I teach pre, post, whatever, to definitely have a mentor. And if you haven't done anything, whether it is land, commercial, or whatever it might be, to get a mentor on your transaction, because you are, 100% liable for everything. And so we want to make sure you're doing it right. I don't know that we have a list of people, but you can definitely reach out to myself, or you can reach out to Paula or Chris or Dina and ask them who they might recommend as well. And Melissa put in there, please advise your buyers to check with their insurance agent about getting builder's risk policy if they purchase land and are building on it. Absolutely. That is something you do need to talk to your general contractor about, and getting your clients to get a builder's risk policy as well. Good point.
How much does that cost?
Varies because the cost will vary because
Depending on
as the home is being constructed,
okay.
the value is going to change, and it's going to depend on what building supplies are out there and ready to be used and whatever. So from the time they are ready to purchase that land, they need to talk to their insurance agent, let them know what they're doing, what's going
So
on,
they have to
and to get coverage,
constantly
because
give
if that
updates
home-
from the
and that home
builder.
could be halfway constructed, and if it burns down or tornado rips through,
Mhm.
they lose it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Money's gone, but they still owe because they have a loan for it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Exactly.
Okay.
Very good point.
Does it cover theft? I can't remember.
You
Like
can
if
get
they
a
come out
policy
and
that
people-
does.
That
Yeah.
does cover
Yeah.
theft. Yeah.
I've
So if
actually
you
seen a
have
lot
like,
of that, like on Facebook with new
Mhm.
construction materials, just because they're so expensive now.
yeah, I mean, just think about if you were just had all the windows delivered and they're sitting there ready to be installed the next day, and then your general contractor comes up the next morning and you have no windows because someone stole it.
Mhm.
So very good. Who do you recommend to engineer the septic? Can the septic company do that, or is that a separate person? So, are you, April, when you ask that question, do you mean like if it needs an engineered system and that's not a conventional? So with septic, you have your conventional systems, and then that's when you go into your engineered system. So taking it kind of all the way back, whenever the county will go out and do a perk test with wherever you or your clients want the property to perk at. If for some reason they cannot get it to perk, one of the things I always do as I do this on my buy side and my list side, is I will go out when the inspector for the county goes to perk the property. I like to go out. One, I like to go because I want to learn what they're looking for. And so I found out that they don't like any gray soil. They want the red clay soil here in Cabarrus County is what they want. They look to see how well it clumps, how well it falls apart. So for me, it's a learning experience. The other thing is I will know right then and there whether it perks for what they want or if it doesn't. If not, then you're waiting a day or two to get their report, or 3 days, however long it's going to take them to get their report. And you're thinking, oh my gosh. And then you get that report back and it's a lot of mumbo jumbo that you're like, what in the world does this say? Just like when our buyers are reading those home inspection reports that are 100 pages and they're like, what does this say? It doesn't make sense. But you can kind of like, when you're out there talking to the inspector, you can like dumb it down to us. It's like, oh, well, that makes sense now. So you're going to walk away knowing that. Does it perk for a conventional system? Does it need to be gravity fed? There's a lot of in-betweens of the systems of how expensive it could be, or it's not going to be as well, going all the way up to the $30,000 engineered system. So if the county goes out and it perks for what they want, they're good. Any company can do that. Any septic company will have a conventional system or a gravity fed system or whatever that might be. If for some reason you get a property and it doesn't perk, or maybe they have just a few sites that the county says, well, these are good, but these other sites are not good, and they're not going to pass it. What I will do next is have a soil scientist go out. So there are 2 soil scientists. My number one go-to is Wendell Overby. He has his own company. It's like Environmental Consulting, I think is the name. And then I forget his first name, but Thompson Engineering. He's a soil scientist out of Midland. He's really good as well. He doesn't seem to be as backed up. And I think Wendell's like retired now. So those are the 2 that I highly recommend. So getting a soil scientist out there would be my next step if the client's absolutely like, we love this property, we want to see if it works. A soil scientist is going to charge somewhere in the realm of $1,200 to $1,500. And he is then going to state, okay, yes, I think we can get a conventional system, or it's going to have to be a special system, or all the way up to an engineered system. He is going to be the one that's going to say what type of system that is and how it's going to look. He will then typically send that on to the county, or you get that report back and you can send it to the county, and the county is going to pass that and say, okay, it's good, because 9 times out of 10, the soil scientist, if they have a report, is going to supersede the county. The county will just go with it and say it's good. And then taking that report to a septic company will be able to get that type of system and install that system for your clients. So I hope that answers your question, April. Any other questions?
Hey, Amanda, it's Sherry Argerbright.
Hey, Sherry.
Hey, have you heard the latest on turnaround time for just a basic perk test in local counties? I know at one time Rowan County was running 8 to 10 weeks out for a turnaround time once you go in and pay for your permit fee. But then they got it down, I think, to about 4 weeks last I heard, but I'm not sure the latest. But do you know what the turnaround time for Cabarrus County is?
I want to say it's about 4 to 6 weeks out, and it's really going to depend. Also think about right now, we're heading into spring season for us, and more people are out like looking, selling. So more people are possibly going to be trying to purchase land right now. When that happens, then the testing is going to get backed up. I also think about at Christmas time, I went in and no one, that's not when people are typically buying. I had a perk test done in the same week. So it's really just, a matter of how the county's running. Also, are they doing other perk tests near close to where you're at? They might be able to fit you in as well. So typically 4 to 6 weeks is where I think things are running at right now, but you can always call and ask that county if you're on a specific timeline. And that's not a bad thing to do right now, is calling the county if you know, hey, we're about to write an offer. I need to know the due diligence, especially in a county you haven't been working in. I had to do that when I sold one in Iredell. I had to call. It's like, what's how soon can you get one out? Because I don't know what to write on due diligence. And so I think in Iredell, and this was like a year ago, it was like 2 weeks out. So if it's a county you don't work in, and it's just a simple phone call of what is your turnaround time for getting a perk test? Maria is at Cabarrus County. She's typically pretty good to talk to about perk test, and will answer a lot of questions for you.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, that we all needed to keep in mind for the due diligence period to what we were working with there on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How long does it take to prepare the land? Like once you bought the land, how long does it take to prepare it to start building, like getting the well, septic, graded, all that kind of stuff?
So actually the well and septic will not go in until closer towards the end of the house is completed.
Oh, okay.
Which is really funny. You have to have all that stuff done up front, like knowing where
Yeah.
it's going to perk out or where you're going to place it, but it actually is not placed until closer towards the end of construction.
Okay.
But basically to get it ready for foundation is just how fast can your grader get it done? Or
Oh,
what's your grader's timeline? What's your client's timeline and your grader's timeline?
Mhm.
So, and how much dirt are they moving? So, I mean, it might take, a couple days for them to get it all done.
Mhm.
But really it's what's the grader's timeline?
Yeah. Okay. And how long does like custom new build take? Like if you're going with Schumacher or something, how long does that take from, the time, I guess, you have all your land graded and stuff? How long does it take for them to build?
I will say any custom build is, I would used to say about 9 months
Mhm.
for a custom build. I would say now in this market, because building materials, we don't know when we can get them,
Yeah.
at least plan for 12 months from the time you are purchased, closed on your land. If you're starting right away, 12 months, I would say, is your minimum time frame till you might be in the house. Now, again, that talking with your GC about what he or she is seeing in building materials and things of that nature, because there might be something like we don't even realize there's a shortage of windows. There was like last year, like there was a shortage of getting the windows in or getting siding in, and it's just things of that nature. So coming back from COVID.
Mhm.
But I always say if your clients are doing any kind of building, 9 months, 9 to 12 months is minimum that before they're going to be able to walk through the door. April said, do you have experience with putting in a road that's up to DOT standards for a small subdivision? I will say my family has put in a road for a subdivision DOT standards. What specifically are you asking in that question? Because there's a lot of different ways I can answer that question, April.
I heard that it's like some duplexes on this piece of land, and they said that he has to have a road that's up to DOT standards if he does more than 2 houses.
Okay, I did not hear the first part of the question. So
Oh,
can you
can
repeat?
hear me now?
I can.
Okay, so I have a client that's looking to put in a couple of multifamily houses on a few acres. And he was told that if he does more than 2 houses, he has to have a road that's up to DOT standards. And I have no idea how to help him with that.
So that is, you're going to need to talk to an asphalt company, and 2 with DOT themselves, because first you're going to need to get what specs per that area do they need. It is going to be very costly. It can, I would say, depending on how long the road is that he's going to put in, because you have to have certain amount of gravel that goes down first, and your asphalt has to be a certain thickness. And there's a lot of other valuations and calculations that the asphalt company does, that what is DOT standards as well. So number 1 is talking to DOT standards and figure out what is the specs, and then also talking to an asphalt company, because they are going to be the ones that's going to then come in and actually put down the road, because you have to put gravel down first before you can put the asphalt down. And then remembering the road may have to be DOT standards, but then does that road need to be dedicated to the city or the county or whatever that might be? So that you're going to need to start working with DOT and then possibly an asphalt company as well.
Awesome.
And it can be costly depending on how long that road is. I mean, I know my family did one. And so for putting in the subdivision road, and they had to put in a turning lane on 601, was almost $1 million.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Amanda,
Yes.
sometimes we have clients who are just interested in buying the tract of land and leave it sit there for build in the future. So they just want us to help them to get the land. At that point, how can we help them with septic? How can we advise them that that land might not perk in the future, or would that be a problem for us that come back and bite us? Yeah.
So if they want to just keep it, they want to buy it, maybe pay it down or try to pay it off before they start building. Definitely have a lot of clients that want to do that. What I would recommend is, number one, get a perk test. They might not be thinking about exactly what kind of house plan they want, but they need to have some kind of idea. Okay, well, in 5 years, we're going to build here, and I foresee a 2,500 square foot home, 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house. That is their vision. And you need to have a perk test. You need to make sure that the land that they are buying as a buyer's agent is going to be worth what they want. You would hate for someone to spend $75,000 for 2 or 3 acres of land and then go down 5 years down the road and it doesn't perk. They're going to be mad at you because why didn't we figure this out 5 years ago? So number one thing, make sure it perks. Now, obviously, and if they have no idea, try to get it to perk for a 4 or a 5-bedroom house. That way, if in 5 years they want a 4-bedroom house, then that's great. Biggest thing with perk test, you can never go up in bedrooms after it's been perked. You cannot go up in bedrooms unless you have a new perk done. But if it perks for a 5-bedroom house, but you only build a 3-bedroom house, that's okay. So make sure you get it to perk. And that would be the one thing that I would have your clients do, because you don't want to sell them something that it's useless at that point. If it doesn't perk, they're going to be mad at you.
And how
Okay, can you say it again, the due diligence period? How long can we put it there?
Your due diligence period is going to be however long it's your turnaround time is on getting your perk back. So call the county that you're working in to see what their turnaround time is. So if they say their turnaround time on a perk is 4 weeks, I'd probably write for a 5-week due diligence period, buffer some days. And I will say perk tests are good for 5 years right now.
Thank
5
you.
years. Any other questions? All right. Well, I don't have anything else. So if y'all don't have anything, then I think that wraps it up. I hope everyone has learned something, or at least a little tidbit. I am always available for questions. So feel free to reach out to me and I will help you in any ways possible. Thank you.